Ladies and gentlemen, whether you've just finished my latest Let's Play, whether you've stumbled across it from seeing things elsewhere on my channel, or whether you've just found it by browsing around the internet and places, welcome. In this little bonus episode, I'm going to be showing some of the little extra content that I couldn't really fit into the main Let's Play. We're going to start this off by finding some little secret things that will make going through the game in future playthroughs go just a little faster. So, if you didn't already know, Donkey Kong Country games, at least the first trilogy anyway, tend to have warp barrels in various places that will let you take shortcuts through levels. In Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 in particular, every level in the first two worlds of the games have these warp barrels in them. They tend to be very tricky to find though, but that's what I'm here for. So I'm going to show you every warp barrel in Donkey Kong Country 3. Let's begin, shall we? Fortunately, these are almost always just a short distance from the beginning of the level, so all we gotta do is carry on just a little further here, and immediately turn left as soon as you jump up here, throw Dixie up and off to the left, and there it is! And so this literally dumps us off right at the flag. North Stop Dashes has its a little further in. You see there's the O there, but all we gotta do is toss Dixie up to the top right here. As you've undoubtedly probably put together by now, these levels aren't really hard for the most part. It's just that these barrels make going through them much faster. To reach the one in Title Trouble, it's actually in a more nondescript place. You gotta stand on this little wood outcropping here, throw up and to the left. Sure enough, there it is with its neat little original design. The barrels in Donkey Kong Country 2 didn't have that. Bit of lag there as that knock that tries to get us, fruitlessly. To reach the warp barrel in Skidda's Row, you want to take this skid out to keep it from being in your way, and stop me if you've heard this before. Whoop. Stand on a certain spot and throw Dixie up and to the left. If you haven't figured out by now, most of the warp barrels do involve a team throw in some fashion. And this final one in Murky Mill is actually very early on, so right at the very end of this section, you want to jump up. And if you're lucky, your momentum will carry you high enough. But otherwise, just team throw up and to the left, and there it is. So if you don't feel like dealing with rats darting in and out of spotlights, there you go. Well, you know, if you don't mind also missing out on the bonus coin to DK coin. As you might expect, the ones at Kremwood Forest are a little more involved. For one, the one in Barrel Shield Bust-Up is actually a good third of the way through the level already. And it's also the first to not directly require a team throw unless you do something crazy. See, when you duck down here, you know this section with the auto-fire barrel and the bear coin? Well, if you go to the left of it, there it is. In fact, I actually found this warp barrel myself when I was younger. I kind of used it to cheat my way through this level because it was too hard for me otherwise. I was young, okay? No time to stop for Riverside Race. You need a real quick jump up here and throw Dixie up to the very center of this water source, and there it is. Oh, and don't bother trying to use it to sneak your way into a really fast time, because as you see, using the warp barrel disqualifies you. So for Squeals on Wheels, as soon as you take out this first sneak, just turn around, throw Dixie up to the left here. Up to the left here, there it is. And you can save yourself a whole lot of trouble and trick shots. But again, you also miss out on important stuff, so yeah. Spring the Spiders has another super early one, and also another one you don't need a team throw for. In fact, all you need to do is stand on this platform, head off to the left, and you might just find this one if you're on your own if you look around a little. But come on, why would you want to pass up on Spring and Spiders? And last but not least, Bobbing Barrel Brawl hides its warp barrel in an unusual spot. You see, if you team up, throw Dixie above the Booty Bird, there it is. In fact, this was another warp barrel I kind of relied on a little when I was younger. Yeah, that Nibbler kind of gave me fits. I was 7, okay? Oh, and by the way, you know I said there are secret caches in the Riverbank levels? Well, I kind of missed them in Bobbing Barrel Brawl because I forgot to look for them. And by that I mean I didn't realize they existed until after I got through that point in the Let's Play. But here's what they look like right here, and in this one is a bear coin. And now you know. So yeah, the warp barrels, it's just a neat little extra thing. If you're going for like an any percent speed run or something, they're there to really help you tear through the first couple of worlds really fast. And now, there is another secret I want to show you, but to do that, I'm going to need to, well... You see, this secret involves, running out of lives. So, this being Bobbing Barrel Brawl, we're going to take care of this through... Whoa. We're going to take care of this through a means that only befits a level like this. Nibbler. Meet the game over screen, a rather, kind of creepy little thing where Kitty apparently got thrown back in his crib and Dixie is with them for some reason. But as the music settles down, if you start pressing buttons, if you press A, B, X, Y, L, or R, you can kind of play music using the blocks. There we go. Trying to find out their order. And so you can just kind of mess around to your heart's content, although if you go a couple seconds without playing, it will close it down. So it's just another neat little extra thing. But you see, that's not all. This game also has a handful of secret cheat codes, and you access them through the File Select screen. So anytime you're highlighting a file, all you need to do is press LRR, LRR, LRLR, and now you can input a code of up to 5 letters. There are a handful of them that work, and so I'm going to show you them. Our first one is rather interesting. If you type in hindsight, I probably should have come up with something to talk about during these little segments. If you put in music, the game will immediately send you to a music test. And so you can listen to this game's music to your heart's content. Although, it's a little unnecessary nowadays since there's YouTube for this stuff, but it's a neat little extra, again, and it's... What can I say, you know? I mean, back in the 90s, this would have been a pretty big deal, you know? It is what it is. So just press start, head back to the File Select screen. Here's another interesting one. Well, first, remember, you gotta put it in again. I like to treat it kind of like it's like a waltz tempo, almost. It's like LRR, LRR, LR, LR. There we go. So this one coming up is a bit more of an aesthetic change. If you input color, if you notice, you can tell the cheat worked because you'll get a sound effect of Dixie crying. I'm not entirely sure how that fits, unless she's mourning the loss of your integrity for using these codes. Color is actually a very interesting cheat because what it does is it changes the color palette of the Kongs to the ones used by player 2 in 2-player contest mode. And not just that, you see, if we go further into the overworld here, let's borrow the copter. The flags for all the worlds and levels that show up also change to match. Again, it doesn't directly affect the gameplay in any way, it's just a neat little thing. If you, for whatever reason, prefer the player 2 color palettes, I mean, Kitty's got kind of a cool looking turquoise onesie himself, then it's there for you to pick if you want to use it in single player. This next one's a little unusual, although I guess most of these are rather unusual in their own way, aren't they? I know what you're thinking, why are you putting in a cheat called erase? Well, don't worry, it doesn't actually erase any save files. What it does erase is something rather... I need to come up with something to say other than unusual, but what it does is... You see, what it actually erases is the list of best time, best completion percentage, etc. To, you know, I guess, whatever need you have to give it a nice reset. It's there for you. A little self-deprecation on Rare's part. But of course, that's far from it. This next set of cheat codes involves some kind of thing to give you a little bit of an edge in the gameplay itself. You can use these either in the middle of a play file or at the very beginning of starting your game. And if you do use one at the very start of a file, the game will brand you a quote-quote cheat and chump in the results screen, so tread lightly unless you're willing to shoulder that. So, as before, LRR. Let's try that again. LRR. There we go. And this next one, probably should have come up with something to say here. So important, such a glaring thing that I already said it twice. So, A-save here is short for autosave. What it does is exactly what it says on the tin. It'll actually autosave your game every level you complete, instead of having you have to run by Winkley's save cave to do it. And worth noting, although many of the cheat codes are a little different in the Game Boy Advance port of the game, the autosave cheat just isn't there at all, because in the Game Boy Advance port, you can just go into a menu at any time on the world map and save from there instead of having to track down Winkley. And now I've explained that, I don't see any real need to go into the game itself for that, so let's move on to our next cheat. Now this one's also very straightforward. Lives does also exactly what it says on the tin. You see, when you use a lives cheat, you start the game with 50 extra lives instead of just 5. As you might have seen a second ago. Let's see if I can get that to queue up again. Suppose not. Well, you did see it for a glimpse, so I'll bring it up on screen just to hear. And so, also worth noting that it's, your lives kind of reset back to 5 every time you reset the game, so, it's only really a help in the short term, and I don't entirely understand why you get branded a cheat and chump for using it at the very beginning of the game when you're going to undoubtedly reset it several more times, and not when you're in the middle of the game. But it is what it is. And you might be thinking, water? What kind of cheat is this? Not like there's not enough water in the game already. In fact, I actually didn't know about this cheat until very recently. I had a friend of mine tell me. This was actually very interesting. You see, what that does is, if you head down here without a vehicle and swim up to this waterfall, you'll find something new. In fact, a hidden Simon cave, and if you beat it, you've learned the cheater's course and obtained every bonus coin in the game in the blink of an eye. Except when you already have them all, then apparently it glitches out. You see, you get one chance to do that every time you input the water cheat. That is, if it's a file you're continuing. If it's a brand new one, you get one chance, period. But if you manage to pull it off, you don't have to worry about finding any bonus in the game at all. Of course, if you do it, you get labeled a cheat and chump at the end. But if you can't find it and don't want to bother looking up a guide, or if you were playing way back when and didn't really have the means to, there you go. So this next set of cheat codes, they're not really cheats at all, because they actually make the game more difficult. And this first one actually only works on a brand new save file. So I know what you're probably thinking, hey, wait a minute, I saw episode 1. The game doesn't even give you a chance to input them. As soon as you create the file, it jumps you straight into the game proper. Well, it turns out, if you go over an empty save file slot, do the little code dance, LRR, the game will let you input a cheat code before you actually create the file. And so, now we're going to input this one, which is short for harder. You see, you probably won't find out a whole lot of useful information about this code. It's most of the stuff you find is kind of vague. It just kind of gives you generic, makes the game more difficult, that kind of thing. Well, the exact nature of the harder code isn't entirely obvious at first. What does it do? Well, so what does the harder code do? Well, it removes roughly 1/4 of the DK barrels in the game, like there's usually one here, but there's not. 28 such barrels have been removed when you activate that code, and if you beat the game while under this code, you'll get 104% completion instead of 103. Yeah. And yes, I did go all the way back here just to do that. Yeah, just to show that. Those warp barrels were something else, I tell you. It took me less than 5 minutes. Oh, and even though I had the monologue, I still beat Brash's time! Oh, by the way, neat little thing, if you go to erase a file and you go over a spot where there isn't a file. So, I know you're probably thinking, does it get harder than harder? Well, in fact, it does. This next cheat works whether you're starting a new file or continuing one, but its effect is different depending on which of the two you're doing. And so, when you input this cheat, which is short for toughest, it does one of two things. You see, on a regular file, on a file you're continuing, all it will do is just take out all the star barrels in the game, replace them with banana bunches. But in a new game, what's missing? You see, the toughest code gets rid of almost every DK barrel in the game, as well as removing the star barrels if you enter it for a new file. The only DK barrels that remain are 4 that are in locations where you essentially need them in order to progress in the game. So, long story short, don't get hit. Fortunately, they're not entirely merciless. When you begin a level, you will get your second Kong back. And so it essentially becomes a run of having to get through every level in the game with the punishment that if you die, you gotta restart the whole damn thing over again. And in this case, dying means if you fall into a pit or get hit twice. And so yeah, it's very, very difficult. If you manage to pull it off, you'll end up with 105% completion. It's only for the bravest of the brave, I'll give you that. Yeah, I'm in a bit of a festive mood for this one. This is one last cheat code to show. And it's a rather special one. It does nothing as far as gameplay goes, but it's purely aesthetic, but it's actually really cool, and it's kind of cool that they included it in. So if we input Mary here and go back into the game, it seems like nothing changed. Thing is, you just have to know where to look. So, once you've inputted the Mary code, if you go and check out a bonus area... Wait, what's this? The music's different. And not just the music. You see? It changes the Find the Stars challenges and takes the stars and turns them into ornamental bells. And of course the very festive, holiday-ish music. And then once you grab the coin, a neat little theme. Changed theme. You get the idea. Very Christmassy. But the star challenges aren't the only ones that have changed. You see, the grab 15 bananas ones have been changed as well. Instead of grabbing green bananas as they appear and disappear, it's presents instead. So it's just one of those things. I guess it's just one of those kind of neat little things that one of the developers said, hey, you know what would be cool if it's not going to cheat that, you know. And then it turns out that they added in a little something that made the bonus area's Christmas theme. I'm not complaining. It's really cool. The music's really cool too. I'll include a link to it in the description so you can hear the whole thing. Unfortunately, Find the Coin and Bash the Baddies don't change at all visually. The only thing that's new is the music. Damn if it isn't fun to listen to. Also, if you happen to mess up in these, the music changes for that as well. And there you have it. All the neat little extras I could find, and that those I've been in contact with could find for me. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you've been following this whole Let's Play the whole time, a special thanks to you. If you've just now found my little corner of YouTube, then it'd be much appreciated if you'd give the rest of my channel a look. Maybe you'll find something that catches your interest. This project's Fireside Talk should be coming up pretty soon. But after that, keep an eye out for my next Let's Play. Until then, this is Delzethin signing off.